No, I don't think I do.
All right, we're ready. All right, at this time, we will call this meeting to order. Val, can you please call the roll?
Commissioner Penny?
Here.
Commissioner Curry?
Here.
Commissioner Danio?
Here.
Commissioner Johnson? Here. Mayor Villa?
Here. And at this time, I'll ask you all to please stand for the invocation led by City Commissioner Penny Curry and continue standing for the Pledge of Allegiance afterwards.
Let us pray. Loving Heavenly Father, we come to you this hour asking for your blessing and help as we are gathered together. We pray for guidance in the matters at hand and ask that you would clearly show us how to conduct our work with a spirit of joy and enthusiasm. Give us the desire to find ways to excel in our work and good for the city. Lord, we ask that you be with our first responders and all those first-line workers during this terrible time that we're in with COVID. Lord, I thank you for all the gifts you bestow upon us and blessings. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Commissioner Curry. And at this time, I will remind you all to please silence your cell phones so we don't have any cell phones going off in the middle of our business meeting. And at this point, we will recess the City Commission meeting and convene as the CRA. So moving to our CRA agenda, item number 1, which is 2021-R-16. Mr. Forte?
Waiting for it to come up.
All right.
Yeah.
Resolution number 2021-R-16 by title only for first and only reading. A resolution by the City of Holly Hill Community Redevelopment Agency of the City of Holly Hill, Florida, authorizing the city manager to enter into development negotiations with Martin's Charities LLC for the development of Pictona Phase 2 in Hollyland Park to consist of a development agreement, incentive agreement, and amendment to the management agreement. Severability, conflicting resolutions, and providing an effective date.
Thank you, Mr. Simpson. Mr. Forte?
Okay, so back in 2018, the city entered into 3 agreements with the CRA agency, into 3 agreements with the Martins and Martins Charities. And the purpose was to create a development agreement for the construction of a pickleball facility which consisted of 24 courts, a players club, a restaurant, senior activity center, and community gardens. The project was completed in July of 2020 and has proven to be successful with over 600 members and having hosted a national tournament in September of 2020 and a planned international tournament in April of 2021. Martin's Charities LLC is interested in developing Pictona 2, which will consist of another 24 pickleball courts and championship court. The facility would be used for local and regional tournaments, increased courts for national and international tournaments, and providing instruction, education, and development aspects of the game. The championship court could be designed and used by the City of Holly Hill for the purpose of offering local performances when the courts are not in use. We're at the very beginning stages, and I'm seeking the Commission's direction to move forward with developing either amended agreements that we have with the Martins, with the development agreement, incentive agreement, and management agreement, or we may have to write new agreements, keeping this Phase 2 completely separate from Pictona as it is. So right now we're seeking direction for the Commission to allow me to continue to work with and negotiate these agreements with the Martins.
Thank you, Mr. Forte. Yeah, and I appreciate staff bringing this back to the Commission in this way. We talked about this in our last workshop, but just for transparency purposes and to make sure that we give the public all the opportunities available, wanted to make sure that this got on the agenda one extra time to allow anybody in the community to be able to come and speak about it, share their ideas, and also learn about the project and what's happening there. So I really do appreciate you putting that out. I know you put it out to the media as well.
We had it in the Daytona News Journal, the Hometown News, and it's been on our Facebook and shared.
Yes, sir. And so although you've already been able to talk a little bit about the project with them tonight, we are not the end-all be-all going forward with this. We are giving permission to the city manager to continue negotiations and work things out to bring something back to this commission. And once that happens, Joe, do we hear that 2 times, or is it 1 time with this project?
No, there'll be resolutions. So you'll get a resolution for a management agreement, an incentive agreement, and a development agreement.
Okay, great.
Probably all on the same, hopefully all on the same night.
I just wanted to be clear because I know a couple people in the public were curious about what was happening tonight, so I wanted to state that for the record. So with that, if there are any questions from the commission or any comments about what you would like to see in the negotiation, you can go ahead and bring those out now. Does anybody like to talk? All right. We'll go ahead and we'll open this up to the public. If there's anyone in the public that would like to speak, yes, Mrs. Heller.
Good evening, everybody. I am Heidi Heller of 460 Ridgewood Avenue. Looking over the Martins Charities LLC, and I'm one for certain type of detail different from Mr. Penny. The IRS.gov does not have Martins Charities LLC. What I found was Martins Charities, spelled differently, INC. And I also, the Sunbiz organization, the state of Florida has Martins Charities INC. So that's 2 corrections, 2 different words. It's not the same as what's written on here, so that might need to be corrected. I'll just give you the copy.
It's probably INC, and I just put LLC.
It's spelled differently, too.
It's spelled differently?
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Ms. Heller. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to come and speak to the City Commission on this agenda item? Seeing none, I'll close public participation. We do have, I see the president of Pictona here tonight. Thank you for being here, and also the Martins. And I didn't know if you wanted to address the commission tonight or not, or if you're just here to listen. We don't have anything. Okay. All right. With that, I'll open this up for a motion on the floor.
I'll make a motion for approval.
We have a motion for approval from Commissioner Curry and a second from Commissioner Johnson. Is there any discussion?
I'm just excited about how quickly we're moving forward with this project and how successful it's been to this point and how successful I believe it's going to be in the future. So.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. One clarification that I do have is are we good to go on this that Ms. Heller brought up with the Martins Charities Incorporated as opposed to LLC?
Yes, this
INC or LLC? INC. Yeah, it's
incorporated.
INC. That's my fault. It used to be LLC. Wasn't it at one time? It was always INC? My fault.
There was a C in it.
There's a C in it. I got
Good attempt at recovery.
1 out of 3.
No, there's more. There's Martin's Charities, so there's all those count. They all count.
Scott, do I need to? Okay.
No, this
So
is
the
agenda.
intent is, we know the individuals, the entity, this is, and we're, the agreement that we actually enter into them, we need to make sure we have the right name.
Make sure it's
But
But this is, the intent of this is just to give authorization for the manager to go start negotiations with the same entity that did Phase 1.
Okay. Yep.
So,
Well-
whatever name they happen to go by.
All right. Thank you for your hawk eye, Ms. Heller. And I know that would have been caught when we were going through
We
the
went through the
actual
actual
agreement
document, yeah.
process. But thank you for bringing that out. Is there any further comments on this before we go take a vote? All right. With that, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Martins. Now moving to item 2, revisions to the CRA grant program. Mr. Forte?
Actually, I'm going to turn it over to Kevin Fall.
Yep. Mr. Fall, how you doing? Good to see you up here.
Great to be in front of all of you, yes.
Yes, sir.
Finally,
yours.
with everything I's dotted and T's crossed this time. So what we're trying to do here is just to modernize and take advantage of what's going on out there in the development community. So we wanted to update our grant program in the CRA to eliminate things that we just don't feel are getting the best bang for the buck in Holly Hill, and then add some things which we see maybe coming down the future. So I have a PowerPoint if you would like to go through with it right now.
Yes, sir.
And it won't take all that much time, but please tell me if you have any questions with regard to anything we have here.
All right. If any commissioner has a question, just stop him and throw out a question.
These two items, the pickleball item and this item, are on the CRA agenda. They repeat on the regular agenda on the consent. So if anybody new comes in, we'll go through it again, but if not,
Okay.
we don't have to do it all twice.
Okay.
Okay, great. So in essence, the property improvement program that we have with the CRA, and it's not the only incentive program with we have the CRA, but it is there for those property owners who want to improve their property. And for us as a city, we would like any investment, private and public, and we would like to share that cost with them if we can. And so just to go over some of the key summary facts, it's a total reimbursement grant. You spend the money first, you'll get up to a 50% of approved eligible costs back, up to $10,000 per property per year. Now that $10,000 can go across categories. So we have categories that exist for paving, for signage, for land. We're going to improve landscape. We're going to put landscaping on there. But we have multiple categories that you can put together as one grant up to the $10,000 per property per year. And as always, it must meet the goals of the comp plan. It requires us to act on it as a CRA before they start, and they must be up to date in all of their taxes and improvements with the city. Next. So what we have here is the current improvement grant program. We have signage, building/facade improvements, paving, and demolition. And the proposed are signage, building, demolition, paving, which requires landscaping, and landscaping and hardscaping, which must be combined with either a signage or a building and facade or paving improvement grant. And the way we did that with landscaping is because, as you all have understood before, when we have done a landscaping grant in the past, the plants die and we're left with spending money to the wind, so to speak. So in those cases, we're making those improvements contingent upon doing a building improvement and a signage or a paving improvement as well. Now, while I'm here, we'll talk about the paving improvement as well. Paving has become a maintenance issue, and paving is traditionally a maintenance issue. And so at times it gets to a point where, as a CRA, it's hard to be that adjudicator to tell whether this is going to be a fix of a maintenance issue or whether this is something that is a capital improvement that we need to do to upgrade the value of the entire CRA. So what we've done there is basically, and this was at the behest of both the city manager and the city planner, that we require landscaping along with that paving. And what we're trying to do there is eliminate these black sea of asphalts that come about when we give a paving grant. And they just pave over everything, and we don't see any kind of impervious or pervious type of material that's done with that. And so what we're going to try to do there is, if they come forward with a grant, and they want to include paving as part of that grant, we will require them to do a landscaping grant as well. And at that point in time, we will, at the planning department's recommendation, figure out where the best landscaping would be for that, and then go ahead and approve a paving agreement as long as it requires landscaping. Landscaping, in addition, requires an irrigation system. So we will not approve anything without an irrigation system that will keep those plants alive. And as with all the capital improvements that are part of the property improvement grants, the property owner must maintain those improvements for 5 years. And the clawback we have on that is basically a code enforcement action and ultimately a lien on the property if we have to go that far.
Vice Mayor?
How much landscaping are we going to make them do? If it's a $10,000 paving job, are we going to make them do, is it a percentage? Because
not
Some
really a
places are
percentage,
much
it's
more
going to be,
landscapable than others.
it's going to be on a case-by-case basis, depending upon what's available.
We're just thinking of blue water boats. There's not a place to put a tree in that whole.
Oh, but they can put potted plants out there.
Okay.
Yeah, there are, again, as Joe indicated, it'll be a case-by-case basis, but we're trying to make sure that we don't have any of those blacktop areas where there's nothing left but blacktop, so.
Kevin, how do you constitute a irrigation system with potted plants? Or you don't?
You don't. If it's a potted plant, they may put a drip irrigation to it. It all depends. But it'll all be on a case-by-case basis. But the point we're trying to get to, and I don't want to think of the zebras, I want to think of the horses. You know, what's going to be most common. And we did a lot of paving grants in the last year or two, and we get this asphalt look, which is great. It looks better than it did before. But it's not beautifying the CRA district. So we're trying to do things that are going to bring more beautification to the district than just an asphalted parking lot. So it's going to be a negotiated scenario. You know, we can't make it a percentage of the paving because some may be able to do it, some may not.
Okay. It's going to be a case-by-case judgment call.
Right.
It is, and I mean, I'll throw this out there, it may be where we have to take parking spaces to convert them to landscaping as well. But that would be done,
Well, they have to do what we say or they don't take our money.
that's exactly right. And it's public money, and
Right.
it needs to be spent in the best manner it can possibly be, so. All right. So we'll go into the individual categories here. The signage part of the grant has been very well done, and you have examples of that up and down the corridor, so we're not proposing any changes to that. Basically, what this does is you have an old sign, whether it be code compliant or not, but if they come forward with it, we will go ahead and fund 50% of that on a reimbursement basis, requiring them to get 3 bids, and we would give them 50% of the lowest bid. If they want something more than the lowest bid, then they pay that difference between the lowest bid and what they want.
Is that for all the projects?
Yes. Building facade improvements, what we did here is we just expanded the category a little bit. I think when you see building and facade improvements as a category, you would think all of these are included, but from a, and forgive me, Scott, but from a legal perspective, we need to get, very literal with this. And so we've added these, and a lot of these came from our sister cities that I've looked at and saw what they have done with building and facade grants. And so these are things that we can partner with the community, and it can make a better visual aesthetic for the traveling public. Demolition, obviously, if we have some sites that are obsolete and not really participating and contributing to the growth and welfare of the corridors, then we need to get rid of those. And that would be something we would definitely match for somebody to do that. Paving, this is something where we wanted to get rid of this as a standalone category, where a business off the street could not come in and just say, I want a paving grant, and that's it. And they would pave their blacktop. What we would do now is we would pave it, but we would require landscaping in addition to that, site-specific based, and figure out what's the best way to improve the aesthetic and the visual appearance of any kind of new pavement. Landscaping and hardscaping, this is again is something that we have tried, the city had tried before, long before my time here, but it is something you must go ahead and offer. And as sister cities, again, they do offer these things. And I mean, I guess we're going to take our hits on the chin where we have to, but at the same time, this gives us a little bit of an enforcement mechanism with regards to installation of an irrigation system. And so,
I'll tell you, historically, when we had this irrigation grant, people didn't want to the landscaping grant, they didn't want to put in the irrigation, and the plants died, and that's a problem. And we'll get people that'll apply, and they say, well, I'll bring my hose out and I'll put a sprinkler out there, and it doesn't work. So if you want the public's money, the taxpayers' money for a grant for landscaping, you're going to have to put in the irrigation, and that's part of the grant. You'll get 50% of that will be reimbursed by the city. But again, this is another effort to try to bring beautification into the area rather than just the standard flat tops.
Thank you, Joe. So this appeals basically to soft landscaping or plantings and also hardscaping, which we saw a lot of with the FHCP project that they did, and some others that have gone through that. And so there, once the corridor continues, and when I say the corridor, I mean the Ridgewood corridor, but it does encompass more than that, that the hardscape will come into play in various conditions. And we're a lead in that with regards to how we've done that with our pavers, with our sidewalks, with our median landscaping and such. Finally, what we wanted to do is bring back the painting program, because apparently we've had some great success from that in the past. And so this basically gives the property owners a chance to come in and do some painting improvements with half the cost funded by the city. There are some regulations that are required for them to meet. Again, we bring in our planning department as one of the key players in advising us and making sure that any of the project applications will meet what we're trying to get as far as the goal. And that is basically to improve and maintain a cohesive, aesthetically pleasant corridor throughout the city of Holly Hill. And that's it.
Are we going to look at the paint program again for the following year as well?
Right now, this is strictly a one-year thing. So we get them in and see how the program works.
And the reason we do that, Mayor, is, and we had a good response the last time. So if you get 20 businesses that want to paint, and they do it over a 3-year period, it's very little visual effect. You get 20 businesses that all paint in the same 6 months, and all of a sudden, you see a difference.
Okay.
So we try to limit it to this time frame to get a big visual effect at one time, and you can notice the difference.
Okay. Absolutely. Vice Mayor?
Is there a separate dollar amount for this, for the paint grant? Do we have, or do you have just one pot of money for all of them?
No, there is a separate dollar amount for the painting grant. The painting grant right now has $50,000 budgeted for it. And the property improvement grant has $100,000 budgeted for it on an annual basis,
Thank you.
at your discretion.
Yep. Great. Any other questions for Kevin? Any questions for staff?
I will indicate that in the past, we had brought forth a rezoning part of this. And the part of the rezoning is that,
Oh, right.
yeah, there
Yeah.
are a lot of lots out there that when you try to redevelop, I mean, we look at Wawa's, we look at Buc-ee's on I-95 in LBGA, 32-acre site for a convenience store. It used to be that an acre would be sufficient
Yeah.
for a convenience store to develop now. And now with basically the retention requirements, the landscaping requirements, the setback requirements, that makes it difficult for property owners to develop their property. So in a PUD, we can negotiate those things and make it not only amenable to the property owner who's making the investment in there, but actually make it conducive to those that are around the property owner so that those adjacent properties don't have to live with something that was bottled in just because they had to meet code. That will be coming before you on a separate item.
Okay.
And there are some other items that we wish to do. The city of Castleberry just passed a grant which gave restaurants half of their investment in doing a grease trapping facility, so that in order to keep the utilities clean, in order to keep things as best practices as we can, they were going ahead and doing something like that. So we're always out there looking at what everybody else is doing, and so we may see that come back to us in the near future as well.
Great. Yeah, I was going to ask about that rezoning. So that's going to come back at a separate time?
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Good.
I don't have any questions, but I just wanted to comment. I took advantage of it 17 years ago. Oh, it was great.
Wow.
I'm almost ready for next round.
Come talk to me, Commissioner.
All right. Anybody else? All right. Thank you very much for working so hard on this, Kevin, and we appreciate you continually looking for new ideas to bring here to the city as well. So thank you very much. All right, and with that, we will open this up to public comment. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this item tonight? Seeing none, I'll close public comment, and I'll entertain a motion for approval for the revisions to the CRA grant program.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Johnson and a second from Commissioner Danio. Is there any discussion needed? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Now we will adjourn as the CRA board and reconvene as the city commission meeting. And at this time, we'll go to item 5, which is public comments, which is the audience's opportunity to talk to the commission about anything not on our regular agenda tonight. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to the commission? Seeing none, I'll close public comments, and we'll move to approval of minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from February 9th, 2021 workshop and February 9th, 2021 regular city commission and CRA meeting?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve from Commissioner Curry, a second from Commissioner Danio. At this time, we'll open it up to the public. Would anybody like to speak to the commission about the minutes? Seeing none, I'll close public comment. Any discussion needed? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Now, we'll move to item 7, which is the consent agenda, items 1 through 2. Would any commissioner like to remove one of the items on the consent agenda tonight? All right, the action proposed is stated for each item on the consent agenda. Unless a city commissioner removes an item from the
Wait.
consent agenda,
There's 3 items.
is there 3?
It says 1 to 2.
There
It says
is
1 to
3.
2, but
It
the
says 1 or 2, but there's 3.
Thank you. Okay, so consent agenda items
Heidi.
1 through 3. Heidi didn't catch that one.
Yeah.
Heidi,
You're slacking.
Come on, Heidi.
you did that on purpose, too.
All right. The action proposed is stated for each item on the consent agenda. Unless a city commissioner removes an item from the consent agenda, no discussion on individual items will occur, and a single motion will approve all items. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak on any item on the consent agenda tonight? Seeing none, I'll close public participation. I'll entertain a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Curry and a second from Vice Mayor Penny. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Number 8, moving to our regular agenda. Item number 1, Towing Company Agreement 2021 PD01. Mr. Forte.
Okay, so this is the third time, I think, that we went out with this RFP for towing services. If you recall, the first time we went out, we had bids from Daytona Wrecker and Universal. Daytona Wrecker was a very high bid, and when they were awarded the contract, they withdrew, and that left Universal Towing as the only remaining bidder. So I felt that only having the 2 bids, we should try to go out and get a better response. And we went out and we did get a better response, and we received 3 bids at that time. We had Arrow Wrecker, we had Universal Towing, we had Friars Towing. Friars was rejected because they didn't report the lawsuit section of the RFP, and the calculations on their bid page was didn't match up, so their bid was rejected. The committee at that time also recommended rejecting Universal, and they rejected Universal based on information that was provided to them that was incomplete. And if you recall, there was a problem with Universal a couple of years ago, and they met with the deputy chief, and the deputy chief basically told them they had kind of a 2-year penance that they couldn't bid on a project, but the committee didn't know that. So the commission directed us to, the commission rejected all bids and suggested that we go back out to bid the towing contract under the sole conditions of the highest bid, the highest royalty to the city, providing that the tow companies are qualified, would receive the award. So 3 bids came in this time. It came in from Friars Towing, Arrow Wrecker, and Universal Towing. And Friars corrected the two problems that they had on their last bid. They corrected the page about the lawsuits, and they corrected their actual bid specs. So Friars, at the end of the day, came in with the highest return to the city. Friars Towing Service bid $2,356.18 per month for a total of $70,000 for the duration of the 30-month contract period. Arrow Services and Towing bid $2,005.41 per month for a total of $60,162.30 for the duration of the 30-month contract. And Universal bid $1,572 for a total of $47,130 for the duration of the 30-month bid. So that's the order of which they came in, and all three of these companies are qualified. However, as the city manager, I'm obligated to inform the City Commission that Glenn Landau et al., which is Glenn Landau has served as the past PT, president, vice president, and the current secretary-treasurer of Landau Enterprises doing business as Friar Towing, is in an active and open lawsuit against the city of Holly Hill and its representative. The RFP provides no requirement to reject the bid from a vendor who is involved in an active lawsuit against the city. However, many legal experts have stated that it is not advisable for anyone, like the city, to enter into a contractual relationship or any communication with a person or entity, a vendor like Friars, who is involved in an active lawsuit. Employees from the city of Holly Hill will have direct communication with employees from Friars Towing, which may result in information being used against one party or the other relating to the current active lawsuit. It's not unusual for the city to be involved in any lawsuit either as a plaintiff or a defendant. It's also not unusual for the city to engage in a contractual agreement with a vendor who has settled the lawsuit with the city. The unusual circumstance in this situation is the fact that the lawsuit is still open and active. The city should never restrict the vendor from submitting a bid following a lawsuit when all information has been provided and a legal resolution reached. However, it may be inappropriate for the city to engage in a contractual agreement with the vendor in an active lawsuit against the city. The City Commission should consider the options of rejecting the bid proposal from Friars Towing. The reason for rejection is that Glenn Landau et al. Is directly involved in an active and open lawsuit against the city of Holly Hill and its representative. The lawsuit is directly related to the business of Friars Towing while they were under contract with the city on a previous contractual towing agreement. So I just make you aware of that so that you can deliberate and make a decision based on all the information.
Thank you, Mr. Forte. And we can open this up to questions if anyone has a question. So I'll throw the first one over to our attorney, Mr. Simpson. In your legal opinion, I know that you've researched this quite a bit. Does this commission have legislative authority to be able to not accept the bid, the top bid this go around based on everything that Mr. Forte just said, being that we're in an active litigation with direct?
I think the important thing about the litigation is it is directly related to the contract for services that we are going to be requesting. It's not like we have an appeal of a code enforcement case or a challenge to a zoning denial on another piece of property. This case involves the city's police department, allegations of the city's police department, when they were involved in the investigation and ultimate arrest or criminal charges, along with Daytona Beach, of this bidder, and how they conduct operations in their towing business. And that case was ultimately found, he was acquitted of that, and now he's pursuing false arrest and other types of claims against Holly Hill, Daytona Beach, and I also think an investigator for the state attorney's office. So the litigation directly involves whether or not, part of it is, was there probable cause to think that the operations of this towing company violated the law? And we are at this, while that active litigation is going on, we are then going to contract with this same towing company to provide services with us. I'm not going to say every attorney, I would say just about every attorney will tell you, if you're in an active litigation, you would advise your client, don't communicate with the other side, only communicate through the attorneys. In the bid specs, I think we say we have about 250 tows a year. That's more frequent than every other day. Our police department will have direct communications with the employees of the person who is actively suing us over what the police department did. There's the potential risk there. Now, in terms of what your question is, so it's not just any litigation. It's the fact that this litigation is directly tied to the services for which we're seeking a contractual award for services for. You know, that it's direct, it's their towing operation and how they conduct it, and our police department will be in direct communication, and they're accusing our police department of prior bad acts in the lawsuit in relation to investigating how they operate their towing business. So it's very, very close. Can't think it can get much closer. Now, to directly answer your question, what have the courts said? The courts have said the public body has a lot of discretion in awarding contracts. You are not bound to do the dollar value most, either lowest bid, in this case highest bid. You're not bound to accept the dollar value best bid. And the courts, unless there is some type of, what they basically say is you need to have a reasonable fact that supports the decision you make. And even if reasonable minds may differ, that's not enough. They would have to find that the action taken by the body was arbitrary, fraudulent, illegal, for the court to step in. And the court has said, our Supreme Court has said, that public body has wide discretion in soliciting accepted bids for public improvements, and its decisions, when based on honest exercise of this discretion, will not be overturned by the court, even if it may appear erroneous and even if reasonable persons may disagree. So I remember one time arguing this case in front of a judge over a bid award, and I even told the judge, I said, the fact that you may do something different under these set of facts isn't relevant. It's no reasonable person could come to the conclusion that, in this particular case, the city should not accept the award of the bid of, and award the bid to Friars Towing because of a pending litigation. No reasonable person could come to that conclusion. And that's the standard. If we look at our bidding regulations, policy 2.13, entitled Rejection of Bids, it says the city reserves the right to reject any and all bids or parts of bid, to waive any informalities in any bid, or to accept any bid which will best serve the interest of the city. So ultimately that's your guiding principle. What is in the best interest of this city? And you have broad discretion in making that decision. Now, can I guarantee you that a court wouldn't rule otherwise? No, I can't guarantee it, but I'm telling you that per the law, you have broad discretion in that. Personally, I think if you were to rely upon the fact or use as the basis of the fact that this, because of the pending lawsuit, as the grounds for it, I think that is a reasonable fact that supports the decision. I think it's also important to note we're not, what the city manager said has nothing to do with the quality of work or the allegations made in the criminal case, or there's also, they've disclosed a pending Tesla case. We're not looking at the allegations, how that affects their reputation, their ability to do work. That's not the grounds for making the recommendation to you. That would take a separate review to present with you all what are the facts. It's just the fact that there is this pending litigation. A comment could be made that would jeopardize the city's defense, and there's not, without us knowing about it. That's why you want the communication go through the attorneys, so the communication can be controlled and regulated. So that's the concern. Now, do you have the ability to say, that concern aside, the more money, weigh the two? And could you say, well, let's go with the more money? Sure. And that's probably, I'm sure Commissioner Curry may ask me, which way is the least way to get sued? That's usually the question she asks. And if you want to know what is the least way to get sued, award the contract to Friars. I don't think either of the other companies have grounds to challenge you over that decision, because they clearly are the dollar value most. And the objective criteria they meet. But we did ask for, give us the past 3 years of your lawsuits, civil, criminal, administrative claims. We asked for that so that it could be evaluated as part of the award process. That's a subjective judgment. That doesn't come from the committee. The committee looks at the objective ones, the objective standards about how close is your storage lot, what type of vehicles you have, making sure none of your employees have criminal records. Those things are objective standards. This is subjective. That's why it comes to you to make that decision. So, I don't know if that's the long-winded answer to your question, or
No, that was perfect. It answered actually checked
you would
off.
you'd almost say I was being paid by the hour, right?
Yeah.
By the word.
But before the record, you're paid to be here, no matter how long we go.
How long it was. I'm
So-
actually dipping into my money now.
Yeah. So another question, the fact that previous bids, this company put in and left out important information, important things, did that bid process wrong. Can that come into our decision as well, or do we only have to look at the current bid right now? Current. Okay. And if this commission was to move forward tonight, and if we decided that we should not be doing business with a company that is in an active litigation with us, that's directly related to the work that we have to do with them, would we need to throw out their bid, or would we be able to award it to the next highest bidder that meets all the requirements?
Well, I think you're splitting hairs there in terms of you're in essence throwing out or rejecting that bid to say I'm going to
Okay.
the next best bidder. But our bidding requirements do require that we put in writing the grounds why the fiscally best bid was not accepted.
Okay.
So that needs to be put in writing and put in as part of the.
Mr. Forte did read
file.
an explanation into the record.
Right.
That was pretty spot on.
I'm going to submit this to the clerk, what I read.
Okay. All right. Are there questions,
Yes,
Commissioner?
Mr. Simpson, I don't want to dig into your money, but active lawsuit, hiring company for same aspects as active lawsuit would create more liability, correct?
Risk.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank you. A higher risk of liability. If we were to hire or accept their bid, we're then putting ourselves and the city into a higher category of liability, or the risk of, by hiring that same company that has the active litigation against us.
I would word it as you're potentially jeopardizing the defense of the city in the active litigation.
Well,
Employees in the field may say something.
it would still be a higher risk of
Yeah.
liability on our part. It could jeopardize our case.
Yes, that's,
Okay.
Commissioner Daniel?
Comments or questions?
Questions, but if you have a quick comment, you can.
Are we going to comment after, before?
Yeah, we can comment after public comment.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll allow you that. Are there any other questions? All right. So with that, we will open this up to the public. So if there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak tonight, yes, ma'am, in the back. And you'll have 5 minutes to say what you want about this item, and state your name and address for the record, please.
Thank you. Amanda Balboa, 541 Carswell Avenue. I am actually the treasurer of Aero Service and Towing. I don't necessarily want to explain why the other towing companies should not be allowed to host the contract, but simply the value that Aero brings to the city of Holly Hill. Not only do we have an unblemished record with Holly Hill, but surrounding cities as well. We've never been debarred or canceled or quit a contract ever. We've been in business 41 years now with the same family. I believe that we take honor and pride in what we do, and we've always reflected that to the city, and we've never made the city look bad. We've never been in trouble for overcharging or failing to complete the contract. So with that said, I just hope that you keep that in mind. And obviously, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you, Ms. Balboa.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak to the commission on this item tonight? Seeing none, I'll close public comments and now allow your comment to be said.
I just want, I've had heartburn with this for the first time on because
Right.
I'm kind of one of those old school loyal guys, and I just didn't see why we had to go through the whole, maybe it's just because, the way I run a business. I'm kind of a loyal guy. If somebody does me wrong, whether it's a salesperson or whatever it is, that's one thing. But the thing that bothered me about the beginning is Arrow didn't have any problems with the city. And I was like, every time you read something, you don't read about Arrow, like she just said. So I was kind of wondering why we were doing this to begin with. And maybe it's part of the city's requirements and city's policies and all that. Granted. So if it came down to it. But now we got a situation where we're kind of betting on a lame horse. And I don't think myself in good conscience, I could award anything to anybody that's in a lawsuit with the city because I just don't feel right. So, maybe I'm speaking for myself, but that's my views on this here, so.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Daniel. Any other discussion or questions before I ask for a motion? All right, the floor is open for a motion. We've all kind of got some thoughts out. If anyone would like to step up and make a motion, I'll allow that.
I will make a motion that we deny the first bid on grounds that we are involved in an active lawsuit or litigation, and it could jeopardize that case. And then I guess, do you need a motion flowing with that to go ahead and take the second bid, or?
You can combine them into one if you like.
Okay, and also, I would like to include in that motion to accept the second bid for the contract.
Second highest bid, which is Arrow Towing, correct?
I will second that.
And Mr. Simpson, so we have a motion and a second before we move forward. And does she need to state as well that the reasoning given by you and Mr. Forte is the reasoning in it? Do we need to make that specific? Because you said it.
I think she summarized it.
Yeah, I
what she did,
included
and I think
about
her
the
intent was
lawsuit.
that what the city manager and I said is incorporated into
Okay.
her summary.
So we have enough of that to put in? Okay, great. All right. With that, I will open it up for any discussion. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Forte,
Yes, ma'am.
I would just like to ensure in the future that this process can go a little smoother, and when we give information to a committee, we make sure it's information in its entirety.
To the best of my ability. I wasn't aware of the information that was provided.
I understand, but maybe we can pass that down to our department heads to ensure that gets done next time, and I don't think we would have had half of this heartburn up here over this.
Well, and can I add to that, Mrs. Curry, is there a possibility in the future that with our bids, we could put in there that we will not be accepting bids from people that we are currently in an active litigation with?
You may be able to put that in there, yes. As I stated, somebody could have a litigation with a city that's completely
Different.
unrelated
Right.
to the issue being bid. And I don't know, ultimately, I guess it'd be for the city manager and y'all to decide if that's in the best interest to completely eliminate anybody, because it starts to sound more like a penalty than a justifiable issue. Here, it's different just because we're talking about awarding the contract for exactly what they're suing us over. The performance of towing services. And
Well, and
so that's,
Mr. Mayor, if I may, we could do exactly what we've done right now.
Throw it out if it happens.
I mean, yeah, just so we don't get caught up in, it's a dog code enforcement issue or something versus, but we could do exactly what we've done.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. You still have the floor.
I'm done,
Okay.
thank you.
You made the second on the motion, Mr. Daniel?
I did.
You have any comment?
No, I said what I said.
Any further comment? All right. Then we will go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, the motion carries unanimously. All right. We have no public hearings tonight, so we move to communications. We will go to Mr. Forte.
Okay, what's the first thing I got on there? Oh, report on the overhead to underground. This was, at the work session, I asked for direction from the commission to go ahead and negotiate for the easement at 8th Street and Ridgewood Avenue. I was able to get the price, only lowered another $500 to $32,000. So now I need your, what are you laughing at? Okay.
You're not a very good negotiator.
It started out at 40.
I'd throw that out
It
there.
started out at 200 and,
Yeah, 200.
I'm kidding, you've done fine.
so with that, I'll need a motion and approval from the commission to go ahead and pay that amount because it's outside my spending ability.
Okay. I would have liked to get that on the agenda. I didn't know that this was going to come up
I
tonight.
didn't want to create that much of a public record.
Well, yeah. So, I just,
It's, I mean,
last commission meeting, we, I stated at the beginning of my mayorship that unless it's a very housekeeping issue, it's an emergency type situation, I want all things on the agenda to make
on
sure
the
that it's,
agenda, report on overhead to underground.
is it on there?
Yeah.
I stand corrected then. I stand corrected.
It's vaguely
Well, with
worded.
that then, with that, I will allow a motion. I was wrong, sorry.
Vaguely worded, but
Apologize
it's
for
on
that.
Even 32, Joe?
Yes.
Yeah, even 32. I will allow a motion for approval. We have discussed, before we move to a motion, I'll open this up to the public. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this purchase tonight? Seeing none, I'll close public comment. I'll entertain a motion for approval to purchase the property at $32,000. And, for the record, we have discussed this in many, many open public meetings, so it's not like it wasn't being put on there. We have a
Second.
motion for approval from Commissioner Johnson, second from Vice Mayor Penny. Any discussion?
Ouch. That's all I have to say.
Sorry, Joe, that's my discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. And you can continue, Mr. Forte.
Thank you. This is not on the agenda, but in April, the 10th and 11th, in addition to the International Bainbridge Pictona Tournament, we have the art festival that's going to be over at Sunrise Park. And they would like to serve beer and wine. And normally Pat would be here to make this request, but I spoke to her yesterday, and our initial conversation went to, well, if you're going to serve beer and wine, first of all, the commission has the ability to authorize beer and wine to be sold at the park. That's why you have to grant that permission. But in my conversation, I talked to her about corralling the beer and wine into a little spot, and well, that wouldn't work. And then we talked about maybe allowing the guests to walk around with their beer and wine throughout the art exhibits, and that would work great. And then my concern was, well, how do we stop them from going into the road? And when I spoke to Pat, and she compared this show to the Halifax Art Show and the Mount Dora Art Show, where they do serve beer and wine, and the patrons, they do walk around the art show and do it. I also met with Brian, and I talked to the chief to see what kind of concerns they had, and it's really a very limited concern. And I'd like to go ahead and try this year, that if we can allow them to serve beer and wine, they'll tell the people, of course, everybody will be, their ID will be checked, and they have to get their state license in order to serve it there. And they'll be told to, if you're going to consume beer or wine, you have to do it within the park. Don't go out of the park or in the parking lot. And we'll have signs posted. So we'd like to give it a shot because I think it raises the quality of the show, makes it a little bit better. If this works out well, we may explore serving beer and wine at the car show or some other opportunities. We do beer and wine at the Pictona tournament. And not that we're turning into this overly alcoholic community, but it does change the atmosphere of the events a little bit, and I think it raises the bar a bit. So on their behalf, I'm asking for the commission to authorize permission for beer and wine to be sold during the art festival, April 10th and 11th, that weekend, whatever the full days are, at Sunrise Park.
Yes, Commissioner Curry?
I just have a question. Can we limit it to the show hours?
Of course.
So that we don't have any issues
No, it's
after the show hour with
it's-
everybody going down to the park and kicking
No, it's
back with
during
their
the
six
show
pack?
hours.
Okay.
That's correct.
Thank you. I'm just,
It's 6 o'clock in the morning.
I just want to make sure.
Good point. That's-
Well, a lot of these shows and festivals now, it's almost come to be expected that you have those type of things. So I'm for it, and I will say though that this is good that it's a trial run to see if make sure there's no problems with it. But I will say I don't believe there will be problems, so I will be supportive of this. And the fact that there probably will not be problems with it means that for future shows we may have to open that ability up as well. But I still like the commission having the ability to review what type of show it is and,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
if we can allow
Only
it.
You can give a permission to serve alcohol on public property.
Okay.
Case by case.
Case by case.
Yeah.
You know, we also reserve the right that if something goes wrong, the police have the ability to shut it down.
Okay. Yeah. Good.
And you might mention to Pat to reach out to our local brewery.
Well, they already have somebody that's going to be serving, from what I understand, a local restaurant.
Gotcha.
Okay. Do you need consensus for that, or
I'll need a motion and approval
Okay.
because you have to take action on it.
all right? Do you want to bring that back, or is it time
Time
crunch?
sensitive.
Is it okay?
Yeah.
All right. Then I'll allow a motion on the floor.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion that we allow wine and beer to be served during the art show in April, during the art show hours only.
Do we have a second? We have a second from Vice Mayor Penny. At this time, we'll open it up to public comments. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on the alcohol being able to be served in the park for the art show? Seeing none, I'll close public comments. Any discussion needed? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right.
The last thing I have is the property that the city owns at 627 Ridgewood may be going under contract. I talked to you about what potentially would be going there, and they've requested consideration for CRA incentives above and beyond what we do with the grants. If you remember back when we did the Fountainhead incentive program, we created a resolution to allow us some flexibility in providing incentives for somebody to develop that property. This will come back to you in a formal document. I'm just bringing this to you to see if somebody says, oh, I completely object to doing that, stop right there, or go ahead and proceed. So they're anticipating building a $2 million building on the property, probably $2.25 million on the property. That's going to generate taxes of only about $30,000, minus the debt service of about 30%. So it leaves available $20,000 a year that we could consider to reimburse to the project for the purpose of eliminating the blight and developing that property. Wouldn't be for a public purpose, it would be for the purpose of eliminating the blight and developing the property. For the remainder of the current CRA tax time period, which is 2026. By the time the place gets built, at your discretion, it could be up to an $80,000 reimbursement on a $2 million development project. So I wanted to throw that out there to you, and before I make that offer to them and bring back an incentive agreement, I wanted to get your thoughts. Now they're going to bring in, there'll be about 50 employees total that they'll bring in. I don't know what the wages are going to be for them. I believe they have about 35 employees now, so as far as new employees, you're only talking about 15. It's not a great deal, but I'd rather see a $2 million project on that property than, if you remember, years ago, we went out to RFP to get bids for developments on that project. We didn't get any responses. We had Des Hockley from Daytona Seats that was interested, but he wanted the property for free. Which is $250,000. I had somebody from a granite company that wanted to put manufacturing on there. That didn't work out. And I had somebody that was interested in putting a landscaping nursery on there, which would have very little tax base. So that property was vacant in 2014 when I got here, with very little response. And the person building this is Matt Schwerman, who you know built Flight Gymnastics, so he's a proven entity that built a multi-million-dollar project on Nova Road. And his other business, I have no doubt that he'd be able to fulfill that obligation.
So, Joe, to summarize, they'd be paying full price for the property, and the only incentive they would get would be possible reimbursement of property taxes paid in for the maximum of the next 4 years?
Yeah, they've put in an offer for, well, I haven't received the offer yet, technically.
I just don't want them to if it's 250, I don't want them to bid 150, and then we give them
No.
80 on the back end.
No, they verbally, I was told it's a 238 offer, and I counted at 240. So we're looking at a purchase of 240. You know, if it was a $200,000 offer, I wouldn't come back with an incentive.
Right, okay.
Well, and they are a proven entity. Their business is bustling right now, actually in the city of Holly Hill, but they've outgrown their footprint. And I do know that Matt Schwerman has done a great job with Flight Gymnastics there. Beautiful, top of the line gymnastics center. And if any of y'all haven't been there, go check it out. I know some of you have been. And so I know that we'll be working with a winner. So I would be in support of that. I think it'll lift up that corridor even just a little bit more. So
I think the thing, and I'm sure you're the brainchild of this, Mr. Forte, so I'll give you full credit, but again, it's performance-based. So he tells us he's going to build a $2.5 million project, and many cities would anticipate discounting the purchase price to get that, and then he never builds it, and then there's never any tax base. So basically, we're just refunding him his own money. We're basically refunding him 2/3 of his own money that he pays us.
right, it's not money that we have
In
that we're giving
taxes.
back. It's
Right.
money that he's giving us.
Right.
Right.
Good idea. I hope, was it yours? Was it your idea?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
If
it wasn't, take credit. Yeah, no money off
That's
of our
why we
backs.
have him as a city manager.
All right, Ed, unless there's an objection to
Do you
that.
need a motion for that?
No,
just
I'll bring
consensus.
back an incentive agreement
Right.
Yeah.
to you for that.
Thank you
That's
for
all-
that, Joe.
that's all
Thank
I
you.
have.
All right, Mr. Simpson?
No comments.
Okay. I had one thing tonight. So at our last commission meeting, we had a lady come speak to us about the Saving the Loop proposition. And so I wanted to fill you guys in, all the commissioners, if you might have not heard. But in a way, kind of jumped the gun. And that's why tonight I said, wrongfully so too, not seeing that it was under communications tonight for the other project, that I really feel uncomfortable taking votes up here on the fly unless they're very housekeeping small issues, or like tonight we saw very time sensitive, something has to happen, they have to let vendors know immediately, and we don't have enough time to get it out. And that goes without saying that, and I'm sure Mr. Simpson will back me up, that's legal as long as it's not a certain type of public hearing or whatnot. But what we did with information that we received on the dais that night, that we were told that the county was moving forward with purchasing property from the Loop, and that they had already been in negotiations and it was already moving forward. And so we decided to do a letter of support to that, to help the county say, hey, look, we also love the Loop, even though it's not in our city and we don't have any money to give to it, but we support you guys looking at ways to save it. And then we sent the letter off, and the next day I got phone calls from many of the county council members saying, why did you throw us under the bus? We aren't moving forward with this. This is a debated thing happening right now. And really put us on the hot seat on, look, you're coming to us talking about LPGA and other projects you want to work with us. Now you're coming and telling us that we have to go ahead and step up and pay this dollar amount to purchase property on the Loop. And so we just didn't have all the full information, and I apologized on behalf of the commission, and I hope that rightfully so. I was telling them that it wasn't our intent to step on their toes. We don't want them coming in our house and telling us, you got to fix this sidewalk right now, and it's going to cost you $1 million. You need to go ahead and do it. And we don't do that to them as well. So Unfortunately, we didn't have all of the information, and I let all of the council members know. All of them are okay now. They all understand it. And I did express, too, that we do support the Loop. We all enjoy the Loop as a greater community. With our own tax monies, we can't help support the Loop because it's not direct enough for our city, actually, in my belief. But so I expressed those beliefs, and the chairman was actually going to come here tonight to thank us for that letter of support. So I was intending to tell him this and to make sure that we clarified our stance on, look, we're not going to rescind the letter of support. We support looking at all options on the table to be able to save as much of our historic Loop as possible. But at the same time, we did just kind of step into their business that was not settled, and I believe everyone up here would say when the woman spoke to us, it seemed like it was a settled deal, that they were already in negotiations. So if I overstepped any boundaries, if I'm not representing the will of this commission or any commissioner, please let me know. But it was one of those things that I can't call you guys about something that's happening up here on the dais. And so I read that as the will of the commission, spoke on behalf of the commission, and it was important because obviously, us as the city, we want to work really well with the county, and we're asking them to help us out with LPGA and several other projects. We don't want to be stepping on their toes on something that's actually not even in our city. So I don't know if anybody had any comments on it or not, but just wanted to let you guys know. Okay? All right. With that, we will go to Vice Mayor Penny.
Hope you enjoy sitting in the middle seat.
Yeah. I took it on the chin.
Sorry you
It's
had
all
to
right.
take that, but
It was my fault.
we jumped right into that and
Collectively.
went down the rabbit trail collectively.
Literally.
I mean, we really did.
The
So
loop is the rabbit.
Actually, something we don't normally do either.
no, it's
Right,
something,
it's not something
we were led to believe it's very time sensitive, and there was
Yeah.
more support than there was, and so I'm sorry that you had to field those phone calls. So
Yeah, we got roped into that.
You had to do it when you were in the middle chair. So sometimes, honestly, just saying, "Hey, we're sorry, we messed up," is the best route. So,
no, I got nothing else to say. Thank you.
all right, thank you, Vice Mayor, Commissioner Curry.
And also, sorry you had to field those calls for us, and that isn't something we normally do, but it was put forth to us a little differently than apparently it was. I have nothing. Thank you, everybody, for coming out, and have a wonderful night.
Thank you, Commissioner Daniel.
Just wanted to say hi, Pastor Steve. Thanks for coming. Tony Casada, good to see you. Now, I'm just kind of glad that, especially with this towing thing, man, that's been hanging over us for a long time. And I just think it's, right prevails sometimes, but that's all I had to say.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Daniel. Commissioner Johnson.
I just want to say a little about the TPO's meeting is tomorrow, where we're going to have another in-person meeting. But if anyone has anything they could pass on about what we really want to do with LPGA, I think we have to do it one step at a time. Looks like we definitely don't have the funding yet, or we don't have a way to procure the funding yet. But it's a county road, and it seems like we're talking to county people and officials. They lean more. They're all 100% in favor of it. But they just don't know how they could be funded. They don't have any way.
What I would ask Commissioner Johnson is to slow roll it at this point, because we need to work the back end on getting the county council support, and we all need to go at the same time. So it's not to say don't say anything. If it comes up anything about the LPGA, say that the commission is exploring options to look at four laning. That would be my advice to you, to not come out tomorrow and just say, hey, this is what we're doing. We decided we're doing this. Wait till we're all in formation, ready to go, and then we can have a plan on that. And it's going to take coordination from the county, from the state, and other members.
I don't think they're looking for us to say whether we're going to do it or whether we're not going to do it. I think mainly what they're looking for now is to see if each and every one of us actually want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Do we want to do it? Do we want to do four lane? I mean, I know we want it, and I know in my own self know for sure that we need it. if we don't need it right now, we're definitely gonna need it in the near future when things really start taking off here now. So I think we need it, and I think we want it, so I think that would be step one.
Mm-hmm.
And then work on how you can maintain the funding. If you can go to them and say, okay, we want it, we need it, now here's the way to get the funding, what do we do?
Mm-hmm. When Mr. Forte spoke to Mrs. Post, Councilwoman Post, last week, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Forte, but she said that she would be supportive of this project, correct?
And I
Okay.
spoke to two county councilmen, and both say they're supportive.
Yes, same here. Yeah.
I just don't know what that means at the end of the day.
Well, we're getting that support, and I think Mr. Forte and I talked that probably the next step is to talk to Mrs. Giabi about some of the options. She has some ideas on how to get that funding, and she's been very successful doing that for Ormond Beach and actually bringing in millions and millions of dollars to that. Not only Ormond, but also Daytona Beach, millions and millions of dollars from federal resources, from state resources, obviously the DOT, and that's what she does for a living. She's a professional at that, and so if we could bring her into the mix, then we may be able to have some more ideas. Which that's the part, is the funding, and I did have a conversation with her, and she believes that we can be able to receive that funding, but it's going to take some effort. So, Mr. Forte. Mr. Forte, I think that you and I should move forward with setting up a meeting with her just initially to talk about ideas, and then we could bring that to the commission, maybe even have Miriam come and present us with something.
I don't know at what point Miriam sends an invoice. So
Right. Well, I think the first meeting will just be
just a friendly,
initial talk about, hey, is what's possible, what's
Right.
not possible.
yeah, I can set that up.
Okay. Is the commission okay with that?
You can't back off it at all, you can't wait, because we didn't push the issue for a while, and then all of a sudden, for a whole year, we couldn't even have meetings.
Right.
And then who knows what's gonna happen again. While you have a chance, this is only our second meeting we'll be able to have in person, which when you have them in person out there, you can really get things done. You have 10 members, voting members on the board there, that's there. And I think there's 9 others that's not there, that's actually on the phone or on the computer or something.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the time to try to do it while we actually have a chance to do it. So I pushed the issue somewhat last time, and the county engineers come in and say, okay, we're going to widen. So I brought up the Hannah Avenue to Williamson Boulevard. So, okay, we agree we're going to widen the Hannah Avenue from Williamson Boulevard to Clyde Morris. Good idea, which is not totally have to have right now, but they absolutely have to have Williams Boulevard widened from Hannah Avenue to LPGA. That's got to be done. I mean, when that Buc-ee's comes in, if anything happens on the interstate or anything, where's the traffic gonna go? They've got to have that. So now, we got to really concentrate on the LPGA all the way out to 92, which they're working on, and that bridge, which it'll take 10 years probably. And then we need to concentrate on LPGA coming to us. I might not, most likely won't even be around to see it get started. But I'd like to have a little bit of a input into getting it started.
Mm-hmm.
So if I could just come up tomorrow and say that everybody in the City of Holly Hill Commission is in favor of doing this project, can we say that?
I can't give you that right now, Mr. Johnson.
But can you give them, we're looking
I'm
at
okay
exploring.
with, I thought we were having a
exploring.
workshop to discuss and see where we were at.
Yeah.
Because when I was on the TPO, I looked at what was the possible, I mean, I don't want to beat this to death because we're going to talk about it, but when you look at the other portion of LPGA that's been expanded and what had to be done with retention ponds, you're going to have to take out businesses and homes or go over the canal. The county's already said that's not an option for them. It's way too expensive. So those are the only 2 ways that you would be able to widen that road.
The county is not the one that is trying to obtain the funding. We're trying to obtain the funding, hopefully from the federal government if we could. In the county, the only ones that say anything to me about it is funding, only funding.
That's the problem, because that cost of covering that canal is so expensive.
If we had the money right now to do it, would everybody be in favor of doing it?
Right, and let me just slow this down for a second because I don't think we're too far apart, Penny. I think actually all of us are in agreement that
Listen,
we
I'd
don't-
love to have it
right,
widen,
right, and that's what that's
but
where
I
we're
don't
at.
think it's practical.
And we too don't want to use eminent domain. We're not looking at that. If they come back and say, look, it's going to be X amount of dollars, we can't cover this canal, you're going to have to wipe out this business, this house, that house, I'm not going to be for that.
Right.
I'm not, and I don't think Commissioner Johnson will either. But I think though that we could say, and I think you're in agreement that we are openly exploring going
Yeah,
down this
we're-
possibility
I would
if
be
we can
willing to
make
say
it
we're
work.
exploring it, but
Right.
I just don't think it's going to be practical, so I can't put my name and my stamp of approval on that.
I think a better way to say it is, we're exploring options to improve the traffic flow on LPGA.
I would agree with that.
I don't know what that means. I don't mean if it makes a flyover bridge, one lane on top of the other. I don't know what's practical, but we all need to work to improve the traffic flow on LPGA, whether that's a one-lane road one way and a one-lane road the other way. I don't know what it is, but I think we could all agree to that statement without pinpointing it that it's 4 lanes or it's nothing.
Right.
Or it's 3 lanes or it's nothing, or it's culvert. We can't draw that line in the sand right now.
Right.
And I think if you meet with Ms. Giabi, she's going to probably tell you anything's possible, but who's going to pay for it? And that's what it's all about. Who's going to pay for it? Where's the money come from? I mean, I'm in favor of a 6-lane road with a bridge over to the beach side down LPGA. Who's going to pay for that? You know, I mean, so
Delivered to A1A.
I mean, if you're going to plan for the future, that's what we need, but it will never
It's
happen.
who's going to pay for
And
it.
who's going to pay? So
The county's not going to pay for it, and they're not going to even come up with near their portion. But I'm willing to explore whatever options we have.
Put it another way then, say if we get phase 2 of the pickleball, in there, we start to have international tournaments, get so much traffic there and all, we still have the people to the boat ramp and all. Where's the traffic from interstate gonna come and go from? On a 2-lane road?
Bottleneck into it.
It's not feasible.
Yeah, and I think, and I get what you're saying, John, but also with due respect, we can't do a 6-lane. There's
I'm
definitely
being
not a way.
sarcastic. If you can't tell.
I know.
If I have to,
So I was thinking
have
an
to do the air
8-lane?
quotes,
No.
you know?
No, what I'm saying though is that I do think though that this is doable, and I don't think that I would be in favor of it if it was absolutely insane. I think that it can be done, and I want to give it a shot. I really do on getting the question I keep hearing is can we fund it? Can we fund it?
Right.
Can we fund it? Well, let's just find out if we can fund it. If we can get those dollars from federal, and it's an important enough project, by the way. It really is. It is the heart of the East Volusia corridor coming right off of that highway right into us, into that dead end of a bottleneck into 2-lane. And I still believe for the future of Holly Hill, I think that that'll choke us off. But I am not in favor of eminent domain. I want to say that. I know that makes the cost a lot more because we're going to have to do something with the canal. But as we talked about earlier in the workshop, that canal, we are supporting Ormond Beach. We are supporting Daytona Beach. We are supporting many municipalities. We are supporting Volusia County as a whole. It's not our canal, and we're strapped with the burden of it that we cannot actually expand that road there, and we don't own the road as well. So
That's another thing, right? We don't even own it.
so the burden is placed on us, and so I just want to take a shot at it. I think that I think that it can work. I do believe that it can work, and that's why I want to push it forward. And I think Mr. Johnson probably feels the same way. Taking a shot.
I think from kind of a business point of view, if you have a chance at all to do it, try to get it started. You got to start somewhere to do it.
Yeah.
but I think we have started it, and I think we need more facts before we go out
Yeah.
pitchforks at the TPO meeting going,
Yeah.
damn it, we want this.
I agree.
They know
I
that
agree.
we want it.
That's kind of what I'm saying. What they're
Right.
saying to me is, we need to make sure that everybody is on board with with it and wants it.
Right. But,
With
but
limitations.
I can't say that right now.
Right.
Neither can
Right.
I. I need the details of how it's going to be accomplished.
Well, because we don't know what's involved, is what we're saying. We want it, but we want it with limitations, because we don't want to stick our necks out and all of a sudden, well,
Might as well forget about it, 'cause
eminent domain
nobody
becomes a
was
part
saying
of
that
it.
They want to go forward with it, and they actually want the project.
Well, here's what I'd say, Mr. Johnson, is just hold off on this next meeting. Allow us to talk with Mrs. Giabi. Let us set up a workshop. Let us get all the facts here. And if there's a way to make this happen, then I do believe that you guys would support it if you heard a path forward by a professional. And at that point, then we will have all of our ducks in a row. The county's ready to go. Miriam's ready to go to bat for us. We're ready to go. And then we can make a whole charge at it, and you can help lead that effort. Okay? All right. Anything further?
Hold off another month on
Yeah,
Commissioner whatsoever, right?
I'd say hold off.
And I'm sure that Daytona Beach Regional Chambers is going to help us out with it as well, right?
But
You know,
Jim's
Eric,
leaving,
Yeah,
so,
but Jim, I
Yeah,
barely saw
he's a
it.
short farmer now.
yeah.
Since I'm a paying member, Jim, we have to do that.
All right, anything further?
That's all I have for tonight.
All right.
Sure, one last.
Yep.
thing. Joe, you mentioned invoices. And I made a comment to Andrew from the engineering firm today about some illustrations I would like to see. Could you just contact him and make sure he didn't take that as direction and we just spent $5,000 for a colored picture?
I'll see what it's going to cost for them to do that.
Well, I don't want it, I didn't want him to go away and bring us back an invoice for $10,000 or whatever for some crazy picture that I asked for.
Good point. Yeah. All right, anything further? All right, with that, we are adjourned. 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 All right, with that, we are